Hi, I'm Alina Marie, and welcome to my reading corner, where today we are going to be talking about The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore, which is actually a pen name, so I don't know if the similarity to Rory Gilmore is intentional, but I am pretty sure that it is. Now, I first came across this book on my TikTok For You page, and I immediately knew that I wanted to read it for this channel. I knew it was going to be funny, I knew it was going to be bad, I knew it was going to be corny, and I knew that it would just be so fun to rip this book apart for you guys. I am really excited to talk about it. Now, I know that it's not fall anymore. We're actually in the thick of winter right now, but I was really putting off reading this book. I did not want to finish it once I started it, but my New Year's resolution was to stop procrastinating, so I endured it. I'm here. I am really excited to talk about this. So when I come across books like this one that are marketed by their tropes and their aesthetics rather than the actual plot of the book, it kind of gives me some clues about the literary merit of these types of novels. And that's not to say that romance is a bad genre. In fact, I think that there are hundreds upon thousands of wonderful, beautifully written romance novels. And by talking about this book today, I don't want to contribute to the hate train against book talk and romance, because I find that it's largely rooted in misogyny, being that the primary enjoyers of these types of books are mainly women. So this is not anything against romance or the genre. This is simply against bad writing and shallow characters, and I think that those can be found in every single genre. I have so much to talk about, so I want to start at page 1, which is not really the beginning of the story, but it is actually a map of Dream Harbor, which is the town that this takes place in. And first of all, that name, just, I can't. It feels very like AI generated, like ChatGPT give me a town name, but that aside, this is the map. And I want to show you this like main street right here. It's full of all the businesses and services. None of them are essential. It's kind of just like fun little shops. But I think that might be normal for like a downtown area of a nice town like this. But I want to read the names of these establishments to you and just let me know if you see a pattern. The Daisy Chain Flower Shop, the Apple Pie Ice Cream Parlor, Pet Shop, Sullivan's Pub, the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, the Gingerbread Bakery, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. So the reason that all of these shops have the exact same like formulaic name and they're all pretty unoriginal and trite is because these books are actually a part of a 5-book series called the Dream Harbor series, and the other books are the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, the Christmas Tree Farm, the Strawberry Patch Pancake House, and the Gingerbread Bakery. And I think the one about the flower shop is coming out this year, so I won't be reading those. Dream Harbor is essentially a town that you would have in a dream. Like it's a town and there are people, but nothing really makes sense and nobody acts like a real person. The whole time I was reading it, I was just like, what is going on? And you'll definitely see as like we get further into the book that like everybody is like weird in this town. There's something like seriously wrong going on here. If you go to the next page, we still don't start the story, but instead we have a playlist right here, which I have nothing against playlists. I think that they're actually pretty cool. I like to know what songs like inspired the author while they were writing, and I like to know what they think fits the tone of the story and like things that they associate with the characters. I think it's pretty cool. But the first song on this playlist is We Fell in Love in October by Girl in Red, which is like a pretty famously queer song, so I don't know why this is the song that's like headlining this incredibly straight romance. Whatever. And then a little bit further down the playlist, we have 3435 by Ariana Grande, immediately followed by The Night We Met by Lord Huron. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I have no idea what this means. That's a really dramatic like tone shift. I think that that's really funny. So now we begin the book and we meet our protagonist, Jeannie Ellis, and she has just recently moved to Dream Harbor to take over her Aunt Dot's Pumpkin Spice Cafe with a 2-week notice, by the way. So her Aunt Dot has announced her retirement. She's given the cafe to Jeannie, worked out all the paperwork, and she has moved to the Caribbean to start her new retired life in 14 days. Which is shocking because it's such a short amount of time and it doesn't do anything to the story. Like, there's no point in adding that. It just doesn't make sense. And Jeannie had worked an office job right before taking over this cafe, and she tells us that her Aunt Dot had told her a bunch of stuff the night before she left, and Jeannie didn't write any of it down, and she also didn't remember any of it, which is like, oh my god, it's so annoying. So she has absolutely no idea how to run this cafe. She has had no training, and it's not even like she's just gonna work there. Like, she is going to own this establishment. Like, she has to do payroll, she has to hire people and fire people, she has to make sure that they're making positive net income, she has to make sure all the cash in the register matches up, she has to make sure that they're making deliveries, and she has to coordinate events and all this stuff. She has to do all this stuff that an owner of a cafe has to do, and she has no idea how to do it because whatever her aunt told her about running it, she didn't write any of it down. Jeannie is a really like dense character. She is really not smart. It's infuriating. But anyways, Jeannie is living in her new apartment. It's like a flat loft thing that is right above the cafe. And she hasn't been able to sleep since she moved in for the past 3 nights because she keeps hearing these strange noises that are keeping her up. And let me tell you how she describes these noises in the book. Every night she'd heard noises. Scritchy, scratchy type noises with the occasional clangy, bangy type noise. This is elementary level writing. Like, in the most literal way possible, this is what a 2nd grader comes up with when you ask them to describe like a noise. And I feel as if the author is trying to set up a distinct narrative voice for Jeannie because this book is 3rd person limited to Jeannie and the love interest. It kind of switches in between chapters. And Jeannie's supposed to be this like quirky, energetic, silly girl because of course she is, but even though I can find some intention behind using phrases and words like this, it doesn't make it better. It just kind of shows me that the author doesn't really know how to set up a narrative voice or how to write like someone who is quirky like this or who's someone who is energetic and silly like this. It just really annoys me. So Jeannie is hearing these noises, and for the first 2 nights, she believes that it's just a raccoon or an animal scurrying around in the back alley, trying to get into the trash or something. But the more she thinks about it, the more she thinks about how the alleys in Dream Harbor are so nice, and they're so clean and tidy, and people hang out there, and they chit-chat there during their breaks. So why would there be, like, rabid evil animals back there trying to get into her trash? So on night 3 of hearing these noises, she thinks, well, if it's not a raccoon, it has to be some sort of serial killer or armed robber. So Jeannie grabs a baseball bat, which she has for some reason after moving in like 3 days ago. And I get that Jeannie is supposed to be a character who maybe jumps to the worst case scenario or overthinks a lot, but her logic is so extremely flawed here that it just makes her come across as really stupid and really dense. So first of all, she spends a lot of the first few pages really like hammering it into your head how nice and idyllic Dream Harbor is. She talks about how everyone's friends, everything's clean, it's like straight out of a fairy tale. I don't know why she would think that a serial killer is coming for her in this town that she deems incredibly safe and incredibly friendly. And also, I don't know why she thinks that somebody would rob her like small family-owned coffee shop in this like really quaint, like small, friendly town. I mean, I don't think that they're pulling in like that much revenue, like at least not enough to get like robbed over or like murdered. But my biggest problem with this is that it has been 3 consecutive nights of Jeannie hearing this noise. So what murderer / burglar robber person is trying to break into somewhere for 3 nights in a row without force, without breaking anything? They're just sitting there like scratching on the door. And like in my mind, it's so funny to me because I just imagine someone like sitting on the floor, like scratching at these wooden doors, like trying to like sand it down with their nails enough to crawl in. It's just like, she doesn't think. She overthinks, but she overthinks like and nothing's like going on. But anyways, Jeannie has the bat and she like creeps over to the door before cautiously opening it. And once she opens the door, she sees a crate of pumpkins. And before thinking like, oh, it was nothing, it was probably just an animal, nobody's here, before even like dismissing her like original thoughts, she just thinks, pumpkins or gourds? Whatever. I don't have time to sort my produce names. Like, okay, first of all, no one cares, but second of all, like, this is your job now. You own a pumpkin themed cafe and you don't even know the difference between a gourd and a pumpkin, that's a Google search. That's a 20-second Google search. That's annoying. That's really annoying to me. But she says behind this crate of pumpkins, there is a quote unquote giant man. And he has a thick beard and he's wearing a flannel. And Jeannie thinks, I quote, he is the picture of autumnal bounty. So she asks who he is, and he introduces himself as Logan Anders, who is, of course, going to be our love interest. And I'll tell you right now, so that you have like a good picture in your head for the rest of the video, this is biblically accurate Logan and Jeannie. This is like what I picture in my head while I was reading. Logan looks at Jeannie and he tells her, it's Thursday. And Jeannie replies, and you've been keeping me up since Monday. Which is really funny because she thinks that this man with a crate of pumpkins or gourds has just been like standing at her door scratching it for 3 nights in a row for no reason. She is really, really, really dumb. And I think that we're supposed to find it cute or endearing or silly. And we're like, oh, you're so quirky. You thought he was there for the whole week. But really, I'm just like, why would you think that? In what world would you realistically think that? Whatever. Logan is obviously like, I just got here because he hasn't been there all week. But he had pointed out that it was Thursday because he brings produce to the cafe on the Thursday of every week. He runs a farm that's in town. And of course the produce that he brings is entire pumpkins, like, or gourds, we don't know yet. He brings them like just fully straight from the vine in like a wheelbarrow. That's also funny to me, but so Jeannie invites Logan into the cafe, and Logan tells her that, like, he usually just leaves it outside, he's trying to get his work done, but Jeannie's kind of, like, persistent, and he ends up going inside. And during this whole interaction, Logan has, like, insane, like, crazy negative energy. Like, he acts like Jeannie is just supposed to know how everything works, even though she clearly has, like, no idea who he is, she has no idea what's going on. He's clearly never seen her before. I feel like the courteous, human decency thing to do would just be to like explain who he is and explain like what he's here to do, but he doesn't. He's just like treating her like she's like supposed to know everything, and like that's really rude to me. That made me dislike him from the start. So it's probably like 5 or 6 in the morning, and Logan's talking about how he likes to get his work done before everyone in the town is awake. And he also ends up clarifying that the crate is full of gourds. I know that you were very, very curious about that. And they're just decorative, which explains why they're whole. Jeannie is described as wearing a cardigan with pajama pants that have hedgehogs on them. And Logan thinks that this is so endearing and so cute for some reason. He also takes note of how expressive Jeannie's face is. He's kind of just observing it as she talks. But all I could think about was Ariana Grande and her like concerned eyebrows, and how like in all her interviews she's always like doing the craziest facial expressions. So like in my mind that's what Jeannie was doing. It was making me laugh. But anyways, Logan is supposed to be like Mr. Nonchalant, so I feel like it would take longer than like 5 minutes for him to care about this stuff or to even really notice it, because I feel like he's just trying to get his work done. He's just trying to get out of there. So I don't know why he would stop and like observe all these things about her and like talk about how cute they are when he's really just like a grumpy person trying to get his work done, or at least like that's how he's portrayed in the text. So Jeannie hands him a cup of coffee, and she starts talking about the noises that she's been hearing, the scritchy, scratchy, clangy, bangy noises, and she asks Logan if he thinks the place is haunted. And instead of Logan like chuckling or being like, what, that's ridiculous, he like chokes on his coffee. Like he almost like spits it out, and like what an abnormal reaction. Like, he's taking her so, like, dead-ass seriously. It's funny. And so Jeannie's, like, she tells him, she's like, there's no other logical explanation. This place is definitely haunted. And she, like, crosses her arms over her chest. And, like, it's clear that she's trying to, like, riff with him and, like, do a bit and, like, be silly. But he's, like, genuinely taking her so seriously. And in his head, he's like, it's way too early in the morning for this insanity. But he suggests, like, oh, if you have a problem with noises, you can come to the town hall meeting and they might be able to help you out with that. And Jeannie's like, oh, well, I'll go if you're there. Are you gonna go? But he just kind of absentmindedly is like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll be there. I think he's really just trying to get out as quick as possible. So he ends up leaving and he continues his delivery. Chapter 3, Jeannie does end up attending this town hall meeting, and she's observing all the people around her. She's observing how they're talking to each other and catching up, and she feels really out of place and lonely. She doesn't really know anybody, and Logan is nowhere to be found. So she's also thinking about how handsome and sexy Logan is. But then she like wipes the thought from her mind. She's like, no, I can't think about that, because falling for the handsome farmer was like not a part of like the new Jeannie plan that she has in her mind. Now Jeannie has been kind of constructing a new personality because no one in Dream Harbor knows her, so she can kind of be anyone she wants to be. However, it's not really clear who she wants to be. She kind of just wants to be like a normal, cool girl, you know, because she's like so bubbly and quirky and different, so like she has to like suppress her true personality. She's like really embarrassed about herself because she like talks so much. So Logan ends up showing up to the town meeting, and he goes to sit right next to Jeannie, and they have another like very awkward conversation that has no substance. And then Logan points out that a few rows in front of them is where the book club is sitting. And the book club, they're kind of like the town gossips. Like they have all the drama and all the tea about Dream Harbor, and they also like only read smut, which like, okay. One of the ladies in the book club starts a conversation with Logan, and she thanks him for coming to their meetings, but Logan is like, I've never been to one of your meetings. And the woman basically says that even though he wasn't really there, they would always talk about him, especially when they read Passion in the Fields, The Farmer and the Milkmaid. That's weird. That's a weird thing to do, and that's an even weirder thing to admit. I get that it's supposed to be like funny, haha, oh, like they think about him when they're reading their smut book, but like it's just uncomfortable. Like, leave this man alone. Like, that has to be some form of like harassment. I can't. Jeannie is, of course, overhearing this conversation, and she is casting herself as the milkmaid in this story. And then she shakes the thought from her mind again before introducing herself to the book club members. And then she meets a girl named Hazel, who walks in and sits next to Logan on the other side. And Hazel runs the Cinnamon Bun bookstore, which is very close to Jeannie's cafe. And she also meets Annie, who owns the Sugar Plum Bakery, which does not exist on the map. Do it that way you will. And she meets a bunch of people. She meets the mayor, she meets the deputy mayor, and the people that own the pet shop, and the guy that owns the pub, and then this other couple that opened up the pancake house. She kind of just meets everyone in the town, and this chapter is like, it serves as an info dump to kind of just like, this is everybody that lives in the town, and you have to remember all these people that, even though we only mention them for like one sentence, it's like very clunky and convoluted, but it's not like hard to digest. Like, you do end up remembering all of them. So Hazel is Logan's best friend, and she is shocked that Jeannie was able to bring him to one of the town hall meetings because apparently he hasn't attended in a long time. And Logan tells her like he's just being neighborly, and Hazel's not buying it. She teases him like how middle schoolers do, and she's like, oh, like I think you have a crush. And it's right in front of Jeannie, and it's really awkward, but Logan just thinks about how like this is the most absurd thing that anyone could ever accuse him of. And even though the author has made it incredibly clear that like Logan does like, or at least will have a crush on Jeannie, like it's just unrealistic. Like, we're really not far into this book, and like the guy who's supposed to be like so nonchalant and stoic and like finds everything annoying and like doesn't want to talk to anybody, like he has like hard eyes for this girl that like he met that exact same day. Their energy is never matching, and I don't buy it. Like, I'm not getting butterflies, or I'm not being like, oh wait, like he does have a crush. I'm just like, why do you have a crush? Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe it's my reading comprehension skills, but I don't get why they like each other. They have nothing in common. Okay. I feel like whenever I do read romance books, I really appreciate when things progress realistically. I think what makes a romance between two people so endearing and captivating to read about is the slow and vulnerable uncovering of two people as they get to know each other. And I think a lot of times romance stems from friendship and connection, and I think that that is like the most cute, fun, amazing thing to read about and to watch unfold in novels. But It's not as fun to watch a romance grow when they both automatically like each other, or at least have eyes for each other, like, from the jump. There's no will they, won't they, and although there is likely going to be conflict and maybe a third act breakup, we all know them, and a dramatic confession, these things won't impact your reader if the connection between the two protagonists never, like, needed to be worked on or never needed to be forged and created in the first place. It ends up making the romance really shallow and incredibly predictable, and it has no stakes. And I think that's a big reason why I found this book incredibly boring and incredibly unoriginal. We get a little peek into Logan's past, and we learn that the last time Logan dated someone, it crashed and burned in front of the entire town. And the next time he dates someone, he wants it to be out of the town's eye and drama-free. And I think that this could end up being a big conflict in between Jeannie and Logan, but it also might be inconsequential and not lead up to anything. Place your bets. The mayor steps up to the podium to begin this town hall meeting, and he begins by saying, "Welcome, dreamers." And Logan is, like, super edgy about this, and he's thinking, like, oh, this is the stupidest thing ever. Like, I should be at my farm. I don't want to be here. This is so dumb. The mayor is so stupid, even though it is corny. They announce a few upcoming events in the town before someone stands up and they, like, start, like, shouting, and they're like, "Where's our coffee?" And then, like, a few seconds later, everybody in the building, like, stands up and they start chanting, and they're like, "We want coffee! Open up the Pumpkin Spice Cafe!" And it's so funny. The whole town just starts, like, demanding that this cafe opens up, and Jeannie's freaking out because, like, she thinks that everybody in the town is, like, already starting to hate her. So Jeannie stands up and she goes up to the podium to introduce herself and explain why the cafe's been closed. So she explains that she's taking over and that it'll be open soon. And then, like, right after she does this, she talks about the noises that she's been hearing. And she's like, "I've been hearing these noises. I don't know what it is. I need help." And right after she does this, everyone starts chiming in, giving their opinion, and talking about their own theories for what the noise could possibly be. It's kind of chaos. Everyone's talking over each other until this one guy, Noah, stands up and he suggests that it might be a ghost, that the Pumpkin Spice Cafe might just be haunted. And Jeannie says, "That's what I told Logan, but he didn't believe me." And all of the gossips are like, they're a little more interested now because they didn't know that Jeannie and Logan had had a conversation yet, or I guess even met. So I guess Logan is so, like, introverted and antisocial that him having conversations with someone means that they're, like, a possible thing. Even though Jeannie moved here today and they had one conversation, it could have been at the town hall meeting. Nobody really knows. So them jumping to this conclusion, it's just, like, it's just dumb. It just wouldn't happen. But aside from this comment starting maybe some rumors about the two, Noah is, like, actually dead serious about the cafe being haunted. He's talking about how the buildings on Main Street are so old, it would be crazy if they weren't haunted. And Jeannie starts to believe him. And I thought that she was joking earlier when she was talking about the ghost to Logan, but apparently she wasn't. So there's two people in on this ghost theory now, and that's chill. They can believe in whatever supernatural things they want. I think that there's a great amount of evidence to support the existence of ghosts, so to each their own. But the next person to contribute to this idea is the mayor of Dream Harbor. And the reason that he supports this is because he had a dream. And when he says this, Jeannie's, of course, like, very confused, and Logan explains that the mayor has had these vivid dreams that he uses to make decisions to run Dream Harbor. So the mayor is a clairvoyant. What? The residents of this town are supposed to be lovable. They're supposed to be funny and have their little quirks. Like, the book club is nosy and I guess, like, perverted, and Hazel's supposed to be the stern best friend who keeps Logan in check, and Logan's supposed to be the grumpy reserved farmer. And so I guess the mayor's archetype is, like, the clairvoyant psychic who runs a town based off of dreams. But while these characters are eccentric by definition, there are such, like, caricatures and stereotypes. They have such, like, little depth, and I can't forge a connection with any of them. I can really only perceive them for what they are, which is shallow and one-dimensional. So I really don't care about any of the characters right now. And I don't think this book is really attempting to have characters with incredible depth and great writing and full arcs. I understand that this book is not really one that's meant to be examined to this microscopic degree, and it's more meant to be a quick read where you turn your brain off and enjoy the plot, maybe giggle at some of the romance. But I personally cannot breeze through a book where everything is so confusing and so detached from reality. It was like my eyebrows were furrowed the entire time I was reading this, because at no point did I fully understand like what was going on in this town. But I think even people who are reading like this as a more casual, quick thing, or people who just like to go on autopilot while they're reading, I think that they deserve quality writing and quality character development and world building, and I just don't think that this should be the standard for a quote-unquote easy read. But anyways, back to the mayor and his dream. So he uses his dream as evidence that the cafe might be haunted, but his dream actually has nothing to do with that at all, so I don't know why he jumped on board with this theory. His dream was about a stranger who ends up being Jeannie, and then the stranger needs help with something, so someone volunteers to help her. And that's the entire dream. It has nothing to do with a ghost. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything except for Jeannie needing help to fix this supposed noise, if that's what you want to make of it. Like, if that's the stretch that a mayor is going to firmly take at a town hall meeting, then I think that we might need a wellness check, or we might need some like intervention. Can you do that if you run a town? Can you just be like, I had a dream, so this is what we're going with? Like, I just feel like that is so unprofessional. That's not okay. Logan is kind of calling bullshit. He's like, that doesn't really mean anything. Like, that's just a dream. And everyone starts telling Logan that you can't just ignore the mayor's dreams. Like, he has to fulfill this prophecy, basically. And he needs to help Jeannie figure out what is making this noise in her apartment at night. Like, he needs to be the one that helps her. And that is the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 begins with Hazel and Annie bringing some things to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe to help out with the grand reopening that is happening tomorrow, and they talk about how excited everyone will be, but I think the conversation quickly shifts into gossip, where Hazel's basically like shipping a bunch of people in town. He's like, oh, these two people. Chapter 5 begins with Hazel and Annie bringing some things to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe to help out with their big grand reopening that's happening tomorrow. And they talk about how excited everyone will be to finally have their coffee back, but the conversation quickly shifts into this like weird gossipy thing where Hazel just starts like shipping everybody in the town. She's like, these two people would be so cute together, and these two people definitely have a crush on each other, and like I know that these two people belong together. It's just like, we are not passing the Bechdel test so far, and I'm really not proud of that. So Jeannie starts to kind of open up her past and explain why she hasn't visited Dream Harbor since she was a little girl. And because Jeannie's vulnerability is creating this sort of tension in the conversation, Hazel decides to break it by asking her what she thinks of Logan instead of letting her finish her story, which is so incredibly annoying. Oh my gosh. Okay. But in this new shift of topic, Jeannie reveals that Logan, in order to help her figure out the mysterious noises, has devised a stakeout where him and Jeannie would basically stay up all night until they could catch what was making the noise. And Hazel's automatically like jumping the gun. She's like giggling and squealing, and she's like, oh my gosh, Jeannie and Logan are having a sleepover, so that must mean that they're falling for each other and they're in love, even though they met today, this morning. Oh my goodness. And then she does like the stereotypical like girl best friend talk where she's like, take care of him for me, like I couldn't stand to see him get hurt again. And like, oh my god, my eyes could not roll further back into my head while I was reading this. It's so annoying. In this conversation, we also figure out that Logan's father left when he was very young, and his mother died when he was very young as well. So he lives with his grandparents. And the town has a sort of soft spot for him. They want to take care of him. But after they drop all of this like information, they just kind of leave. Like, there's no more like nuance to the conversation. They're just kind of like, yeah, his parents died, like, nice to see you, have a good day, and then they just head on out. So Jeannie is now alone in her cafe before Logan shows up, and he gives her like a pair of earplugs and a new lock for her back door, and he suggests that like maybe these things will help her sleep a little better at night, which is a really nice gesture. It's really kind of him. But Jeannie thinks this is like the most romantic thing anyone has ever done for her, and then Logan tells her that he'll be there tomorrow for the grand opening, before leaving. The next chapter is when the stakeout happens, and we are at Logan's farm, and he is heading out to go see Jeannie at the cafe when his grandmother stops him and asks him why he's heading into town so late into the evening. And she asks him, I quote, "What's got you into town until morning? A new lady friend? Or a gentleman friend? You know it doesn't matter to me as long as you're happy, dear." I mean, I'm glad his grandma's this, like, accepting, sweet woman, but I feel like this is something that you don't say to your 30-year-old grandson. I feel like they would have had that talk already, but I just don't see the point of it. It's silly, like, it's not that big of a deal, but I just thought it was so out of place. So they completely skip over the reopening of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I thought it would be a way bigger deal. Like, they talk about it a lot in the book. A lot of people say that they want to go. They're all in the town hall demanding that it opens up, but they just kind of skip over it and they say that it went well. So that's good. But now it's the night where Jeannie and Logan are having their stakeout, and on his way to the cafe, he's reminiscing on his last relationship that ended so horribly, he swore himself off from dating. So Logan's ex is a girl named Lucy, and she was a big city girl from Boston, which is also where Jeannie's from, coincidentally. And they dated for a long time, but she didn't want to share his small town farm life. She wanted to live it up and live it big in the city with him. And to try and kind of maybe tie her down or like save their relationship, Logan proposes to her in front of the entirety of Dream Harbor to try and get her to like come live with him on his farm, even though that's clearly not what she wants. And she rejects him in front of everybody. But am I crazy to say that Logan is in the wrong here? Like, his girlfriend, who he's in love with, clearly they don't want the same things out of life. She clearly doesn't want to live on a farm. He clearly doesn't want to live in the city. They have two completely separate goals. And instead of respecting that and ending the relationship, Logan tries to tie her down and like make her marry him and live with him on his farm instead of doing what she wants. And I think that that is like a cruel, rude thing to do. I just don't think that Logan's like in the right here at all. Anyway, he makes it to the cafe right on time and they start talking. They talk about random shit. They talk about candy and like their theories on what the noise could be, as if they haven't already discussed like every possible theory like multiple times. They've talked about like every single person in this town by this point has given their own theory, and it's always like the same three theories. It's like a ghost or a killer or an animal. Like, we've been down this road before. We don't need to do it again. But Jeannie eventually asks Logan if he is only helping her out of obligation, and he tells her no, like he actually wants to help her. He wants to be a friendly neighbor. He wants to make her feel welcome into the town. And this makes Jeannie feel a little bit better. A few hours later, they roll out sleeping bags onto the cafe floor, and they both climb into their sleeping bags, and then Jeannie calls Logan flannelly. Like, that's an adjective that she uses to describe him. Flannelly. Which is, okay. Jeannie opens up about having this expectation of running the cafe, and her reality isn't really matching up. And Logan tells her, like, you just need to settle in. She just needs time to adjust to the town. She's obviously going to feel out of place at the start because she doesn't know anybody. And instead of thanking him or asking him for more advice, Jeannie tells Logan that at her old job in Boston, she found her boss lying dead on his desk. This, I would argue, is incredibly unprompted. I think that she's known Logan, I think maybe around a week now, maybe a little more, maybe less. And even though they were starting to open up to each other a little, this is like, that's a lot to drop on somebody who you barely know. But it doesn't end there. After revealing this to Logan, Jeannie like throws a fit. Like, she starts like sobbing, snot like dripping from her nose, like crying her eyes out, like just all the works. And she tells Logan that she was so lonely in the city. And she tells him this story of the time that she got the flu and she vomited on her carpet. And because she was so lonely, no one was there to help her. And I guess she was like too weak from the flu to clean up the vomit. So she just let it sit there for 3 days before throwing the rug away. So after hearing this, Logan immediately pulls Jeannie into him and he holds her, and she buries his face into his flannel and cries while he reassures her. And I don't think they're close enough to be doing this. Like, I think that Logan has built these walls. Logan is a reserved, restricted person because of his last failed relationship. He talks about how he's guarded, how he doesn't want to date again, how he's like built up all these walls around him. And these walls are falling way too fast around Jeannie. He has known her for like a week, and I'll say that again. And Jeannie has apparently been like so lonely for all of these years before moving. So I feel as if it would take her a little while before she gets used to having these close connections, for having a crush on someone or a relationship. And like, I don't think she would adequately be able to open up to someone this easily at this extent when she hasn't really had that form of connection in so long. I don't think she would know how to approach it. And maybe this is her way of trying to approach it and maybe failing, maybe succeeding at that. I don't know, but I just don't think that they have reached a point where they are close enough to be acting like this and to be holding each other and crying with each other. This is like their first time being alone together. Okay. But anyways, while Jeannie's crying, she hears this noise again, this scritchy, scratchy noise, if you will. And after they're interrupted, Jeannie wonders what would have happened if they hadn't heard the noise. And she says, I quote, "Her imagination very helpfully filled in the then what with a pornographic slideshow of ideas." So now she's fantasizing about Logan taking advantage of her while she's in a highly emotional state. Okay? I'll save you the time. The noise is a cat. Page 100 of this book. First of all, 100 pages, that's all that's happened. Second of all, the noise is a cat. They have been stressing about this noise, like freaking out over this noise for so long, and it's a cat. This did not need to be dragged out for this long. It's like, it didn't even do anything. It was just a plot device to get Logan and Jeannie to have a sleepover, but you know. No, I was actually really annoyed by this. I've been annoyed by everything in this book, and I feel like I've said annoyed more than any other word so far, but I audibly sighed, like, when I read that. It's just, like, I kind of saw it coming. I knew it was going to be, like, a lackluster thing, but still, it's just, like, it's a cat? Okay. Jeannie actually ends up adopting the cat, and she names it Casper, which is the most creative and original name that I've ever heard anybody name their cat. But also, like, I'm thinking, like, does she really need a cat? Like, she can barely run this business. She can barely take care of herself. She can barely take care of her own, like, apartment. Like, does she need a cat on top of that? I don't think she does. So once they figure out that it is a cat that's making this noise, Jeannie starts crying again. And she starts saying, like, I'm so sorry for making you do this. Like, I'm so dumb and stupid, and I was so scared over nothing, and you probably never want to see me again. And she's, like, basically hitting herself in the head and being like, stupid, stupid, stupid. And Logan is, like, tasked with reassuring her again. And I'm so infuriated reading this. Like, I am so upset with Jeannie for acting this emotionally immature with her first time being alone with Logan, and this is how she acts. It's so... I cannot for the life of me get behind, like, the dynamic that they've created. While Jeannie's crying and Logan's reassuring her, he tells her, I think maybe you're not used to being treated right here, Jeannie. And then she thinks his words landed hard. Damn. Logan goes home. Logan leaves and goes home because the mystery has been solved, and Jeannie decides to update her plan for Dream Harbor, her new Jeannie plan. She updates it, and she decides to include getting with the handsome farmer. Okay. Again, I just don't think that you can create these characters that are supposed to be guarded and have these complicated pasts that would eventually lead them to maybe having trust issues or trouble finding this deep connection with someone, and then immediately have them both swooning for each other and wanting to be with each other in less than a month. It feels rushed and kind of like a lazy excuse to just throw some sort of internal character conflict so that they don't seem that flat or boring or uninteresting or one-dimensional, but it fails. I really couldn't give a fuck about any of these people if you paid me. Sorry. The next day, Hazel and Annie return to the cafe, and they warn her about the book club meeting that would happen in a few days. And they also warn her that Max Sullivan, who owns the pub next door, wants to expand, and he wants her space for his pub. So this is when I'm going to cast my bets for this book. Act 1, we had the scratching noise. Act 2 and 3, I think Max Sullivan is going to try and steal the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. There's going to be like a third act breakup between Logan and Jeannie. And then in the end, they'll win the cafe back and there'll be the couples of Dream Harbor, cut wrap. That's the book. My Venmo will be in the description. Chapter 11, Logan's on his farm. He's feeding the animals and of course, daydreaming, fantasizing about Jeannie. But to sum up his feelings, I will read this paragraph to you. Hadn't Jeannie said she'd wanted things to be perfect here? That she'd had some kind of vision for how she wanted her life to be here? Well, there was no such thing as perfect, and he wasn't going to be the one caught trying to make Jeannie's life vision come true. He couldn't. It would never work. His feelings for her are very much like a seesaw. He's swooning, and he's thinking about how beautiful she is and how endearing and cute she is. And then he's like, I won't be caught dead with Jeannie, but this seesawing and back and forth isn't done very skillfully. It's just kind of always hard to be on the same page as him. And every time you might start to empathize with him or understand him, it only really lasts for like 5 seconds. But anyways, Logan is so bored on his farm and he has nothing to do. So he decides that he needs a cup of coffee. And as soon as he arrives at the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, he remembers that it's Wednesday, which if you don't remember is the book club day. And as soon as he walks in, all the ladies turn to look at him, and none of them can be normal. Like, I'll read you this excerpt because it's so fucking weird and unnecessary. The book club ladies, like, treat him like an object to insert into their smut fantasies, and it is insane that you would write this into your story without any commentary on why it's wrong. Come on over here and say hi to your old teacher, Nancy said with a grin, seemingly oblivious to the fact that Logan didn't really want to know what kinks the woman who taught him how to tie his shoes was into at the moment. Is this not weird? Is this not so fucking weird that his elementary school teacher, who met him when he was probably like 5 or 6, is in this group that actively sexualizes him and imagines him in like their smut books that they read? That is so weird. Why would you write that into your book? It's like, it's not fun. It's not cute. It's not like, oh my gosh, they're so silly. Oh my gosh. Like, I am perturbed. This is disturbing. I am genuinely disturbed by this. I can't. Okay. I'm moving on. I'm really upset. Jeannie takes Logan's coffee order and he keeps having these like impulsive, like really romantic thoughts about Jeannie, and they're kind of just like uncomfortable to read about. Like, it doesn't give me butterflies. It kind of just makes me think that every thought that Logan has about Jeannie, it has to be like a romantic thought that needs to be pushed out of his mind. Like, Logan barely talks about Jeannie's personality or her interest or like anything that's innocent about her. It's always like, oh, I wish that I could make out with her. It's just, it makes me uncomfortable, and I don't really like being in that point of view. I'd much rather read about how he likes her as a person before progressing to the more physical aspects of a relationship. Again, they really don't know each other that well. This seems really like unwarranted and weird. I'm not a fan of it at all. It is uncomfortable, but at the end of the page, he makes a comment about how Jeannie looks like she belongs in the cafe. Like, she looks like she's been running it forever, and she looks like she's really fitting in. But then he makes a comment about how he wants her to fit in, which I understand his sentiment. Like, I understand what he means, but like, it comes across as him wanting her to fit into this like ideal of what he wants in a woman, to want to live in Dream Harbor and live in this town and accept him as a farm boy, like to leave her city life behind. And it's kind of the same thing that he did with Lucy, which is a normal thing to want in a relationship, but like not a normal thing to like force out of your partner or your potential partners. After Logan leaves, a group of college kids from the next town over comes in, and Jeannie says that they have questionable piercings, if that tells you anything. She then goes over to join the book club table again, and she asks them what they're reading, and I kid you not, they're reading fucking Heated Rivalry. I cannot get over this. It doesn't like explicitly say Heated Rivalry, but they describe it as a male-on-male hockey romance called Heated Up. Could you be more trite, please? But they talk about Jeannie's past and Logan and just like all the small talk, and Jeannie thinks, in the book, she thinks, look at me, making grown-up friends and getting hobbies, which is so like adulting, don't talk to me till I've had my coffee. Like, she's so millennial. I feel like every time Jeannie speaks to the book club, the conversation always like wiggles its way into warning her about Logan, and she keeps getting this like, don't break his heart speech, like, you don't know what you're getting into. And like, she's already heard this from Logan's friends, she's heard this from other people in the town. She doesn't need to be told it every single time that she has a conversation about Logan. After the book club leaves, they leave Jeannie a copy of The Farmer and the Milkmaid, and she thinks it'll never be as good as the real thing. It is now the day of the autumn farmers market, and Logan is looking for an excuse to stay at the farm and not have to see Jeannie. And Logan's grandpa kind of clocks that something's up, and he tells Logan, you can't avoid town forever. And this doesn't make sense to me because last time I checked, Logan was literally in town yesterday at the coffee shop, but whatever. His grandpa also tells Logan to give whatever he doesn't sell to Annie because he wants more of her pies. However, right after this, the narration explains Grandpa had a notoriously sweet tooth that had been trading apples for pies ever since Annie opened the bakery. This makes me mad. Like, this is the kind of small stuff that like really gets me going because I knew that. I just read it. The grandpa just explained what he was saying. It's implied. It's implied with what he said very explicitly. Like, I don't need another paragraph telling me like the backstory of that statement. Like, it just makes it feel like unnatural. Like, I am not stupid. Your readers are not stupid. Like, we can add 2 + 2. That just annoys me whenever they like explain the most like obvious things. It really gets me going. So Logan arrives at the farmer's market and he notices that the sun is slowly being covered by some dark clouds, but he also notes that that never really stops people from shopping. So he goes and he helps Annie and Jeannie set up their tents and all of their products. But while they're doing this, all of a sudden a storm rushes in and it just turns the market into chaos. And I think this scene is really funny. It's written in such this like dramatic tone, and I was giggling while reading this. I want to relay this to you on page 141. Everything happened all at once after that. Jeannie's easy up lifted off the ground. Annie shrieked just as the clouds opened up and let loose a deluge of cold fall rain. Logan was soaked, Jeannie was soaked, and Annie's pies were in grave danger of being soaked. George sprang into action. We have to get these packed up. He started reloading pies into plastic containers while Annie frantically threw muffins into Tupperware. I just think it's silly, like, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden, like, tents are being swept into the air, and you would think, like, a flash flood is coming, but after this, Jeannie and Logan go on this wild chase for the tent that blew down the street in the wind, and they're getting soaked in the rain, and then they see that the tent is, like, tangled up in this tree, and Logan starts, like, grunting and huffing and, like, just being so, like, annoying, like, trying to pull the tent out, and Jeannie just, like, tells him to, like, give up. And she just invites him back to her apartment to go dry off. So they go back to her flat, and they have their first kiss there, which really quickly turns into a makeout. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, I was struggling to feel, like, anything during this scene. Like, I was thinking maybe some happiness, maybe some butterflies, maybe just something sweet, but I couldn't. Sorry. There's really no tension between them. I just don't even really know why they like each other. Like, there's no stakes here, and there's no reason for them to be together. Even though the author, like, desperately wants there to be. She's trying really hard. It's just not working out. Anyways, their makeout is interrupted by the power going out because of the storm, and before Jeannie goes to help out in the cafe, she reassures him that she had a good time, she wanted to make out, so he doesn't even need to worry about it. And then also she tells him, like, we can just keep it low-key, keep it casual, like, we don't need to have a name or a label. And so he's happy about this because he doesn't want a big public relationship like his last one. The book also has this whole thing about Lucy, like Logan's ex, like haunting the narrative. Like, I haven't described every single detail of the book, but Logan thinks about Lucy all the fucking time. It's truly agitating, and she is really pulling like a Lucy Gray on his life. Like, it seems like everything he does is out of fear of being hurt like that again, and it makes sense to a degree. Like, your proposal's rejected in front of the entire town, and so obviously you have some insecurity, you have some trust issues because of that. But I don't know, like, if the guy that I was seeing, or if the guy that I had a thing for was like constantly comparing me to his ex, like, that, can we move on? Like, I would just be so annoyed by that. Like, mm-mm. So now Sullivan's Pub, which is next door, is having this big trivia night, and Logan tags along with his friend Noah. And of course, Jeannie is also at the pub with a few of her friends, and Logan doesn't know if he should go say hi or just stay at his table. And the whole time he's thinking about this, the narration just becomes incredibly redundant and increasingly more tired. One thing that this book does is that once it establishes a character trait or a piece of the plot, it really does not let it go. And that's not me saying that it just naturally incorporates it into the story. Like, that is me saying that it repeats it and repeats it and repeats it into oblivion, like twice a chapter, every single chapter. I am so tired about hearing how introverted Logan is, how he doesn't go to big events, how he wants to be home at the farm. Like, I remember, trust me, I truly do remember Logan's one singular personality trait. How could I forget? Putting this aside, Logan and Noah go over to Jeannie's table and they're all chit-chatting about the game and who they think will win the trivia. And Noah makes a comment about how he likes Jeannie's competitiveness. He thinks it's fun. And Jeannie smiles because she just got complimented. And then Logan thinks about how he wants to punch Noah for making Jeannie smile. What? That's so fucking corny. I'm not someone who can handle the like stupid, like insecure, like jealousy trope bullshit. Like, I think it's so tired and it's so stupid. Like, it's so insecure. I hate it. After the game is over, Logan walks Jeannie home and they end up making out in this alley behind the pub, and they're interrupted by a trash can knocking over. And then Logan thinks it might be raccoons, but none of the bags are ripped. So Jeannie has a suspicion it might be Max Sullivan trying to scare her away and steal her pub, but they don't know anything for certain. So they just call it a night and go home. And oh my god, the craziest shit happens. Oh my god. Okay. So Jeannie is woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of glass breaking, glass shattering. So she gets out of bed and she like peeks into the cafe to see what just happened, and she sees a dark figure with a baseball bat. So someone, at least it's implied, just broke into her cafe, busted down the window, but she doesn't call the police. No, she doesn't call the police on the person who just broke into her establishment and is holding a weapon. Holy shit, Jeannie is so dumb. Like, she's so dense, and I cannot. I'm really trying. I'm thinking. I can't think of a singular good decision that she's made this entire book. I can't do it, and I'm really trying. I am upset. She didn't call 911 on the person that just broke into her house and has a weapon. Instead of calling 911, she texts her brother, who lives in a different state, by the way, so he's not coming to help. And also, like, the formatting of this text is, like, really odd. Like, there's no spaces in between the text or, like, indication of who's typing. So, like, you just kind of have to, like, figure it out. It's, like, there's no reason for it to be formatted like that. But her brother, she, like, tells her brother about what happens, and he's like, oh my god, why didn't you call the police? You're so stupid. And she tells him that she doesn't want to because she, like, doesn't want to start drama. And then she starts telling her brother, like, no, I'm fine, like, it's, like, I'm chill, don't even worry. And then she doesn't know exactly what the glass breaking was, even though it's pretty obvious that it was, like, one of the windows. So she just says that she'll check in the morning. And they end up chit-chatting for a bit, and they're talking about life before they say goodnight. And then Jeannie ends up staying up all night because she's pretty worried and scared. And then at 5 in the morning, she gets a text from Logan checking in on her, and she assures him that all is well, everything's good, even though it's not. That day, there is a town hall meeting, and this is where Logan finds out about the break-in because, you know, people saw the shattered window, and they were asking Jeannie about it. They're like, are you okay? What happened? And Logan's like, what happened? And Jeannie tells him, someone broke into my cafe, no big deal. Like, oh my god. Logan is really specifically upset that Jeannie didn't call him. Like, he doesn't care that she didn't call 911, but he's really perturbed at the fact that she didn't call him, which is like, okay, whatever. And after the town hall meeting, he drives her back to the cafe, and then she like gets on his lap in the car and they start making out in the middle of Main Street, even though I guess that they were supposed to be like low key or like on the down low. But like, so much for secrecy. It doesn't add anything to the plot either, because like nobody sees them. So okay. So a few days later, Jeannie goes to Logan's farm uninvited and she meets his grandparents, and his grandma is wearing a tie-dye sweatshirt and neon pink leggings, which is camp. I'll give that to her. And Jeannie came to the farm to update Logan on the case of who broke into the cafe. She's kind of gathering evidence, and she tells him that more stuff had been broken lately. She tells him that the refrigerator wasn't working and the cappuccino machine kept breaking, and like some of the artwork from the walls was like gone and like hidden in a supply closet. So she thinks that the call is coming from inside the house and that somebody is sabotaging her who works at the cafe, which creates a list of 3 suspects: Norman, Crystal, and Joe, who are her only employees. But there's no further evidence that points to any one of them specifically, so they plan another stakeout to see if they can catch any suspicious activity. And then right after this, they start making out in Logan's room, and then they are interrupted by a knock on the door. This part's written really oddly. Like, once Logan hears the knock, he lets go of Jeannie, and then the whole page is like rephrasing how he lets go of her. Like, the first paragraph starts with, he tore away from her, and then the following starts with, he jumped away from her, and then the one after that starts with, he dropped his hands from her body. It's like, it reads like the author rewrote the paragraph 3 times and then just never ended up choosing one of them to keep in the book. She just kept all 3 of them. It's like, a lot of the writing is kind of like this, though. It just feels like one thought that they stretch out for an entire page or even multiple pages. It becomes really, really clunky and redundant. Jeannie decides that the interruption has ruined their moment, so she starts to overthink about their relationship being a secret, even though I think it's only been a secret for like a week. So it's like, they've only known each other for like a month, and they've only been like seeing each other in secret for like a week. So like, there's not really a lot to overthink in my opinion, but whatever. This is where Logan like finally reveals to her what happened with Lucy. She kind of is like prodding him a little bit, and then he tells her that she rejected him in front of the entire town and like he's traumatized from it basically. And then Jeannie reassures him and she's like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, she was like a fool to lose you. And you know, all the basic things that you would think this conversation would have some more like nuance or discoveries about the character, but like, no, Jeannie just figures out, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't really lead to anything. It doesn't really add up to anything. It just happens, and I think that that's like a really big missed opportunity. Jeannie literally just leaves. She goes home. Okay. And Logan's friend Noah stops by to check up on him. Logan like ends up opening up about his troubles with Jeannie, and then he feels like he's leading her on, but he also feels like he wants to commit to her, and he also doesn't want to push her away by being too non-committal or too secretive about her. He's just really worried that he's doing stuff wrong. So Noah suggests like, just make your relationship public. Like, you really don't have that much to lose. Like, you have only been dating for like a few days now. And Logan starts to contemplate this. He's unsure, but he thinks about it. When Jeannie gets back to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, there's a realtor woman there who, she was there earlier in the story, but I kind of forgot about it. But Jeannie doesn't want to sell the cafe, even though the realtor is telling her like, you could make a lot of money, you could get an entire house, you could pay off your debt, and Jeannie just doesn't want to do it. It doesn't seem worth it to her. She's really coming to like the town and to really enjoy running the cafe, and she feels like that's what she wants to do long term. So she decides not to sell, to keep the cafe. So Jeannie and Logan don't talk for a week, which is kind of crazy, but on the day of the fall festival, because that's happening by the way, Logan goes to see her at her apartment. I don't even know why. I think that he just kind of feels bad for not talking to her for a week, so he wants to go like reassure her. But when he gets there, she's crying because, why is she crying? She's crying because she wants everything to like go well for the festival, and like one of her employees like called out sick and she can't get a hold of the other one, so she's like kind of breaking down, and she's like, I don't know what to do, like I just wanted everything to go right, it's just like a bad day. And then Logan comforts her, and they like immediately start making out. I am so tired of them making out, like please. I'm really bored, I really don't care. Like I'm having fun talking about it, and like it's silly to like recount, but like reading it, I just am so tired. I don't want to read the same makeout scene in a different font 6 times and it not lead to anything. It doesn't mean anything. And it's like, not everything in a book has to mean something, but like everything in life means something. You know, it's like every decision you make and every action that you make with someone, it leads to something. And that it just doesn't seem like that happens in this book, which makes it like really unrealistic. It's like they just make out and it doesn't really seem to deepen their connection. It doesn't really seem to make them understand each other. It's just like to get another makeout scene put in the book. This is also like a really fast-paced book. Like this could definitely be a one sitting book if you wanted it to be, but I just like don't, or I guess I didn't want to keep picking it up and reading it. I feel like I'm grasping at straws to like find something with nuance or depth or commentary on anything. And I mean, even think about like some of like the really famous romances like Pride and Prejudice. It's like mainly a social commentary along with the romance aspect. Like there's more to say, and this book doesn't have that. And I didn't really expect it, but I'm searching for it, and I can't find it. There's no stakes either. Like there's nothing to lose. I know how everything's gonna turn out. It's like I've predicted the book from page 1. I don't know. So Logan ends up helping Jeannie, and then they go to the fall festival together, and then this is where Logan decides that he's okay with his relationship with Jeannie being public. So he takes her hand out in the open, and Jeannie's shocked. She's like, you want to be seen with me. And that makes her feel more secure. It makes her feel like he's more committed to her, like he likes her more. And she's also kind of at the same time worried that there's more pressure for her to not mess anything up or to not hurt him, because now all eyes are on them. They hang out at the festival, they judge a costume contest together, and then they go to a haunted house together where they start making out again in like a dark corner, and then they subsequently like get caught. It's tacky. I don't really care how you feel about like PDA and all that, but there's a time and a place for making out and groping, and it's like not a haunted house where like kids are and like it's too public. It's just, they get caught and they go back to Jeannie's place and they have sex for the first time. I skimmed the sex scene. I don't read books for smut. You don't need the details anyways, but they do use a condom, and I like when books promote safety. The next day, Jeannie is showering when Logan is looking around her apartment, and he finds the real estate papers from the realtor. And this leads to him jumping to the conclusion that Jeannie's going to sell the cafe and leave Dream Harbor and leave him just like Lucy did. And this infuriates him. He's talking about how angry he is, how he wants to throw stuff, and he's so mad. And he just wants to leave. He wants to get out of there and just leave like a one-night stand. I hate the miscommunication trope when it is done like this. The way that the miscommunication is handled in this novel is so infuriating because it showcases a lack of emotional maturity and patience from both of our main characters, and not in a way that is intentional or meant to be analyzed by the reader, but they act immature simply as a plot device to have this miscommunication. How shallow. I believe that the miscommunication trope can work incredibly well when there is an external factor keeping characters from communicating, such as distance or circumstance. But it can also work well when characters are purposefully written to be toxic or manipulative or to lack these communication skills in general, because not only does it serve as a plot device, but it serves as commentary on these types of people, and it serves as something to be analyzed by the reader, as well as aiding in the progression of the story and the progression of the relationship. Jeannie stops Logan before he can leave, and he's just being rude and sharp to her, and he's like saying like, I have to go, I need to leave, I don't want to be here. And then Jeannie like glances at the papers and then looks at him, and she's kind of like putting 2 and 2 together, figuring out what he's upset about. And then she assures him that she is not selling the cafe, and he doesn't believe her. He just doesn't believe her. He tells her like, no, No, I think you do want to sell the cafe. I think you do. I don't think you like it here. I think you miss your big city life and you're just running away from all your issues. And he's making all these assumptions about her, and Jeannie clocks him on it, and he is like really upset, and then he just ends up saying like, we need to take a break. And then Jeannie like throws his clothes at him, and then he leaves, and Jeannie like storms into her room and slams the door shut, and they're like having a fight. Third act breakup. I was correct in my prediction. My Venmo is in the description once again. In the next chapter, we figure out that the person tampering with the cafe and breaking into it was Norman, one of the employees after all. It wasn't Max Sullivan, although you might have thought that like I did. He admits that he did it because he wanted Jeannie to sell the cafe so that he could buy it. He was working there for like long before Jeannie took over it, and he thought the cafe would go to him when Aunt Dot left, but obviously it didn't, and so he was kind of bitter about that, and he really cared about the cafe, and he thought that he kind of deserved it. So, but this reveal doesn't lead to anything, actually. It just doesn't do anything. It answers the question of like who it was, but like he quits his job, and then Jeannie just forgives him, and she tells him like, okay, you have to pay for the window, and then that's it. Like, nothing leads to anything in the story. It's just like lackluster reveals and lackluster plot twists that I don't care about. Annie and Hazel hear about how Jeannie and Logan are on a break, so they go to his farm to like talk some sense into him, and they tell him that Jeannie isn't going anywhere and that he's letting his abandonment issues get in the way of something good. And they just have this like long talk with him to try and get him to like come to his senses, and then he ends up agreeing. And I will say that I think it's refreshing to see Logan have friends who are women without it becoming like a point of jealousy or comparison for Jeannie. I think that it's really nice to read about. It's really healthy. And I was worried that it would go in the route of like jealousy and toxicity and protectiveness and possessiveness, and I'm really glad that it didn't. I think that that was like a breath of fresh air to me. So Logan goes to the cafe. He finds Jeannie in the break room, and he gives her this like dramatic love confession that the entire book was leading up to. He confesses that he's in love with her and that he's loved her for a while. He just couldn't say anything. He tells her that he's sorry. He has all these issues that he needs to work out, but he wants to do that for her. And Jeannie's kind of saying like, you're all over the place. Like, I don't even know what you want. And Logan just says like, I want you. And then they kiss and they hug and they talked about how much they missed each other before Logan picks Jeannie up like a sack of potatoes and then brings her out into the cafe, and he like yells out to the cafe, to the public, and he says like, I love this woman. If you've seen The Summer I Turned Pretty, it really reminds me of that scene where Jeremiah is in the car and he like sticks his head out the window and he's like, I'm gonna marry Isabel Conklin, and it's just so cringe. So cringe. I had to put the book down. I am also pretty sure that they've known each other for like 2 or 3 months at this point. So I think despite this romance taking the entire book to become official, I don't think it's a slow burn. It's not a slow burn. It's not. Because they've only known each other for like 3 months. For like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know. Chapter 31, they go back to Logan's house after this like love confession, and then in the span of like 15 to 20 pages, the entire chapter, they have sex 3 separate times. Do with that what you will. I hated reading it. And then Jeannie's Aunt Dot comes back to town to like settle things with Norman after figuring out that he was like trying to sabotage the cafe, and then he ends up like confessing his love for her, and then she like confesses his love for him, and it's just like this irrelevant subplot that like I didn't care about. Okay. At the end of the book, like the grand realization of the book was that like Jeannie can be herself. At the end of the book, Jeannie's big realization is that she can be herself in Dream Harbor. She can just live her best life in the Dream Harbor with Logan and all her friends. And then she also realizes that like she's pretty happy with her life, and then that's just like how the book ends. There's an epilogue, but I didn't read it. Sorry, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, that's how the book ends. They just like get together officially, and the town like knows about them, and like everyone knows, and then Jeannie's like, okay, I'm happy with life, and then that's it. There's actually discussion questions on the back of this book. It says reading group questions, so for like a book club, and I'm actually going to answer these for you. I think it'll be pretty interesting to hear what the author wants us to discuss about this book. So also let me know what your answers are to these questions in the comments. If you were to step into Jeannie's shoes, how would you navigate the challenges and responsibilities of owning the Pumpkin Spice Cafe? Well, first of all, I would write down the shit that my Aunt Dot tells me to, so that I actually know anything about anything to own a cafe. That's what I would do first. And then second of all, I would take a class. I would take a business management class. I would take a business ownership class. I would take a financial management class. I would take a bunch of online courses to try and prepare for the massive weight that's about to be dealt onto me. Question 2. Think about the moment Jeannie first meets Logan. What elements in that encounter set the tone for their evolving relationship? Well, I remember Logan was a dick to Jeannie, and he was so annoying and just rude for no reason. And Jeannie was also really annoying and making jokes that were just making it awkward. And that's kind of how their whole relationship is. So I actually think that sets up their dynamic pretty well. They don't get along. They have no reason to be together. They are completely conflicting characters who don't really like anything about each other, except for the fact that they're attracted to each other. So yeah, I think that actually sets it up really well. Number 3. Forgiveness and second chances play a big role in the novel, particularly through Jeannie's interactions with certain characters. How do you think these themes shape the story, and do you agree with the decisions that were made? I agree. Forgiveness is a big part of this novel, but not in the way that you would take a lesson from it, just in the way that Jeannie is maybe too quick to forgive without thinking. And I don't really want to be like that. She forgives the man who breaks into her cafe with a weapon and then is trying to sabotage her entire business and her means of income in life. She forgives him in the same conversation that he admits this stuff to her. I don't want to be like that. So I don't agree with the decisions that were made. I don't agree with Jeannie ever. Number 4. What do you think the significance of the changing characters as a metaphor within the story has on character development? It was autumn the whole time. Next question. There was no changing seasons. Okay. Number 5. Dream Harbor has plenty of unique townsfolk, including Mayor Kelly, Annie, and Hazel. How do they contribute to the charm of the town? The town wasn't charming. I was worried. I was quite scared for them. I didn't find it endearing. I've stated this a few times. I don't want to be too redundant, but I didn't think it was charming. I thought it was more concerning. Next question. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe brings romance, community interactions, and small town life together. What were the standout moments for you in this book? The standout moments for me in this book was when someone broke into Jeannie's shop and she didn't call the fuck. All in all, the book was bad. I was bored and I didn't really care about anything, and I think all of the big emotional reveals and moments were lackluster and disappointing. And I also think the characters were one-dimensional and immensely hard to connect with. But on the flip side, if I didn't care about any of those things, I probably would enjoy this book. It was silly, and there was some sort of story going on. Whatever kind of growth or development it tries to have, it just kind of plateaus. But if you ignore all of that, then the book is pretty good. If you enjoyed this book, I'm happy for you. If you haven't read this book yet, I'd say save your time. I will not be returning to Dream Harbor. My journey ends with this universe today. I'm not reading the other 4 books. I assume the others are all kind of the same thing, and I think it would be a waste of my time to just make the same video or read the same thing a multitude of times. And also I want to say to Lori Gilmore, I'm sorry. Thank you for joining me in this journey. If you made it here to this point and you're still with me, I love you so much. And I am so excited to talk about the next book with you. I love you. Bye.